मीटिंग रूम में हूँ।
So we'll start the introduction and then formally start the system. As Mr. Khan, I explained to you, while we request you to come and speak to us, the session on life and growth, the essence of life and growth, was primarily initiated to bring out positivity and bring in experts like you who have had long careers, at least 3 to 4 decades of work experience, to come and share their experience of life. As one knows that one normally goes through different terrains of life, personally, ups and downs, professionally, sees in the economic environment, sees the kind of growth which is taking place, the sadness or the negativity which are prevailing. So, based on their experiences, I thought I should bring forth so that we can have more positivity going forward. So that was the prime essence or idea of starting this webinar series at 12 o'clock every day. And I'm happy that the media has been very supportive of the initiative. They have been covering our webinars every day. I'm happy that they're able to take the message of learning people like you to larger audiences. We've had a good group of people from all over the country. I see people from UAE joining in, from Japan, from Malaysia. We have had people from Poland and other countries as well. Yesterday, we had the speaker from Finland, who was based in Spain, and shared his experiences. So this is something which we have started as a social conscious activity to go about doing an active structure. As I said, we will begin with certain questions and all. Before that, I'm happy to welcome Mr. Khan. Mr. Khan has had a long experience, administrative experience, with the Government of India, and he retired as a Secretary Government of India. He's been with the Ministry of Defense, Ministry of Finance, and as everybody would know within the country that one gets to experience large amount of facets of activities in one's career, and is responsible, extremely responsible for whatever happens in those divisions or districts, whichever he's responsible for. So Mr. Khan has seen India in two senses, every nook and corner of this country, every department, and not only finance, but almost all different facets of departments which every government has in this country. So we are enriched by him. Not only that, we are very privileged that one of his articles was received by us in the journal Finance India, which we published. And it was published in Finance India, June 2019, if I remember correctly. And this is on public finance. He is an expert in public finance, not only in the journal Finance India, but he's published widely in various journals, and his work is referred and is referred by people across the board in the area of fiscal policy, public finance, and economic issues, and so on and so forth. So we'll be very happy to learn it. As a disclaimer, as I said before, the Ministry of Home Affairs have issued guidelines yesterday, and we are trying to observe every guideline which has been issued there in accordance with that. And so we will be closing the meeting room in a few minutes as well, so that we can conduct the meeting smoothly. We've had Zoom bombing yesterday, and I hope we're able to contain it. We have been working on it, simulating and seeing what all can be done as a measure to stop some of the misdemeanors which happen at times. We are now about to begin in a moment or so. So Mr. Khan, I'll request you to start speaking. Before that, I'll request my administrator to actually go forth and do the basic check requirements which are required, so that we can close the meeting room in another 5 to 7 minutes before we go forward. Now, Mr. Khan, I'm very happy to welcome you. And as I said, I would like you to focus on life and growth instead of the current scenario which is prevailing. And given that, I would like you to, go forward and maybe give your opinion on what are the key factors which you feel are there for essence of life and growth, going independently or together.
Good afternoon, Professor Agrawal. Good afternoon, everybody. I hope you can hear me. Can you hear me?
Yes, they'll be able to hear you. They can't speak. They're all mics on mute.
Great. So first of all, I must congratulate you for taking this initiative. And at this point of time, especially whatever is happening in India and globally,
We have you a little
I
louder,
think it
please.
was
Little louder, Mr. Khan. Yeah.
so. I was trying to say that you have taken a very opportune time to start this webinar, especially whatever is happening in India and globally with regard to Corona. So we need a lot of soul searching basically, and to look into things in a multi-dimensional way rather than just being fixated by the coronavirus. Now, when it comes to, your subject is very daunting, I must say, sense of life. And I was wondering how to look at it. And then I saw that, okay, probably one can look at a sense of life in probably 2-3 ways. One can be a scientific way of understanding life per se, and then understand the sense of life. The other can be a normative way where, you can look into the life again philosophically and then decide for yourself what is going to be the sense of life. And the third of which I thought maybe there may be more ways of putting it, but the third I like to put it is the empirical way. Empirical way is basically how you experience life from the day one or zero date and how you go about it. Now, I will not dwell deep because I am not probably equipped also to look into the scientific aspect of origin of life and talking about peptides and amino acids, etc., etc. But something I might say at the end of it in a sentence or so. Similarly, philosophically also, I am probably finding that I'm not trained for that. I am basically a physics student who has practiced public finance for almost now 30 years or so. So I will like to go into the empirical mode of it rather than going into the philosophical and scientific mode of looking at life and trying to figure out what can be construed as essence of life. Now, I mean, you don't have to go through my life. You can go through your own life also, and then you see right from the day when the trigger is on. Probably this is the only time when you can say that the life is full of bliss and nothing else. But beyond conception, then you see that there starts the time when the mother carries you, and then of course you are delivered. And when you are delivered, I remember a very famous couplet of Urdu, which says that या तो दीवाना हंसे या तू जैसे तौफीक दे वरना इस दुनिया में आके मुस्कुराता कौन है. So that means you give a cry, and but at the same time when you cry, you must remember that when you cry for the first time, the whole atmosphere is full of joy, happiness. Now, so one has to draw from there. According to me, I'm extrapolating from there itself that even if you cry, and if it gives you joy to your family, to your friends, to the society on your arrival and your cry, then I think it is worth it. So now let us take it forward. Then you start your dependency age group. That is up to, I mean, economists define it as up to 14 and plus 65. So that means that is the time when you are dependent on your family and society. And then they train you, and what they train. Because by now you decipher that as an individual, what you are doing. You are consuming goods and services. And where from these goods and services are coming? They are coming from the family. But surely as you grow, then the goods and services have to be earned by you. And how do you earn it? By creating goods and services yourself. Now think of the good old days when there used to be a barter system. I used to create goods and services. You used to need those goods and services. And what you were creating, I used to buy it. But then it has its own limitations. So we generated a market. We created a market. Now in the market, there are a large number of sellers of goods and services, and there are a large number of producers of goods and services. Again, this was a one-to-one transaction. So we we had to find out some intermediary arrangements or institutional arrangements, and then we created currency. So according to me, the essence of life at this point of time is that can you create goods and services which are useful to the society, which the people are willing to buy, which the people are willing to pay price for? And are you able to create goods and services enough that you can sell it in the open market without the help of your family or the government, and then buy from that at least the goods and services which you want to consume? And of course, and the old economic argument that out of today's earning, how much should you spend consume, what you should save for your rainy day. So the essence of life, according to me, comes to this level, that whether we as a society, as an individual, as a governance are able to create a situation in which everybody is able to create goods and services which the market is willing to buy, and he is able to get the price on the basis of which he can purchase goods and services which he will like to consume. Now, the corona has created a difficult situation. Let us try to bring it into the contemporary situation. There were a large number of people who could create goods and services, but for various reasons, the mechanism has been, the supply chain has been broken. And because of that, the people who were in a good position to create goods and services, they had to depend on the food being supplied by the various charitable institutions or the government. So this is the present, but this need not be the something which one should worry about, because this is a passing phase. Sometimes you fall ill also, and irrespective of whether it is corona or it is normal. So at that point of time, in any case, you depend on others. So dependency on others should not take away your self-esteem from you. It should not take away self-confidence from you. And according to me, so long as one can live the life of a person who has this enough of confidence in himself that he can create goods and services which are useful to the society, and in return, he will have wherewithals to buy goods and services which he needs, not as a form of charity, not as a form of grant, but by way of his own efforts, then that becomes, according to me, the sense of life for anybody who is not in the dependency ratio.
I agree. So given these parameters and background, and you beautifully shared your life experiences and what you have learned. I would not say, although you are a physics graduate, but I've known physics graduates to venture everywhere. Robert Merton was on our editorial board, got the Nobel Prize way back in '97 for option pricing. He was a physics PhD, and he's a professor of economics. So physics people tend to adjust very well in all circumstances. And given your administrative experience, you have seen life in this country in specific very closely, from the district level, from a town, village level, from a commoner, or from a very high level government official dealing with politicians, member parliaments and all. You have seen life very closely. So, from there I see the experience coming forth. Now, given what you identified as the key factors for essentials for life and growth, how do you see it shaping up in the next 6 months to a year?
Okay, let me put it this way, that if you believe that this corona is a temporary phase, then according to me, the Indian economic story is not, disturbed hell of a lot, because I feel that you should always be able to remember all your pluses, and without sounding, taking sides this way or that way, let me say, you cannot take away this positive that at this point of time, we have a charismatic leader or set of charismatic leaders who are trying their best to take the country forward, number one. Number two, we are a democracy. And in democracy, it is more important that the government in power should have the stability. Now, at this point of time, this government also have enough of strength to take bold and hard decisions. The third thing, that another, the 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 uh, the the things which happen with democracy, that if the elections are around, then you have a different type of issues. Now, luckily for us, that the most of the important elections are 3 to 4 years away. So these are the three pluses on the political front. Now, the society has to look into the political economy. So I have given you the three positives. You can count more, like at this point of time, India is having the goodwill across the world, which has it has never enjoyed in the past, probably, both in terms of soft power as well as hard power. And with the corona has given you an extra dimension, that it becomes some sort of a pharmacy of the world. So these are the the political aspects of it. Now look into the economic aspect of it. Now in economy, what is your problem? What can be the problem most of the time is that whether we will be able to buy things from outside, and do we have enough resources for it. Now we know for sure that our exports were under pressure for a while, but at the same time we should also remember that our this current account deficit is not more than $180 billion or so, while our foreign exchange reserves are around $475 billion or so. So worst come to worst, at least we have that much of resources to fall back upon. Number one. Number two, we should also remember that we are producing goods or services, or the GDP, Indian GDP is around 8 to 9% of the global GDP. So the disruption in terms of the corona effect is not affecting only us; it is affecting others also. Now, I am not trying to be crude, but at the same time, we can safely say that if you have a look at it, your total population and the effect of corona, and the effect of corona elsewhere, then we can say that if we are not the worst off. If we are not the best of the situation,
but I want maybe a little take of yours on two aspects of stories which I came across, in fact, yesterday and today. One was an incident, you see, which we are seeing the human face of the police in particular, when they are cooking, supplying food supplies, and people on one side, we do hear negative stories of what is happening with some groups, but mostly people are welcoming them with flowers, respecting them. So this is a new phase which we never saw of police as such, ever in the history, in India at least. And also we saw a similar kind of a phase in the US, where a person actually sent a message to the police center saying, my son's birthday is there and there's no one to welcome me, we're very lonely. Yeah. And within a few minutes, a large number of police cars came outside his house, burst the thing and wished him happy birthday. And he came out and he was, flabbergasted. He was very happy that someone had come. They were maintaining distance, they did not. So they burst for 5 minutes, wished him, and then they all left for their jobs. So this is a new phase and new structure which we are seeing, which we have never seen. We have always seen police, whether it is movies or others, which has been shown for corruption or shown for bullying people or troubling people and so on and so forth. Now, given these kind of things which we are seeing now, new faces which we are seeing of even the doctors and the medical society, which is being appreciated around the world for their tireless hours. They've been started talks about for the last 10, 15 years that they have become commercial, they want to make money, they're using organs, they're using this and they're using that. But we're seeing that human face again for doctors and various other professions like that. And so from that perspective, do you see changes when we look at life and growth coming 6 months and a year ahead?
See, I was just trying to wonder what are the positives which are going to come out of this episode. And I think the most important part, most important thing which I probably could figure out are the three. Number one, you see, the Indian police has never had a great reputation when it comes to the courtesies, etc., etc. So I think that Indian police is going to rediscover itself and we counted among some of the best well-behaved forces across the globe. So I'm sure sooner or later, just like our IT industry has been recognized worldwide, some people have also been saying that the Indian governance or bureaucracy works best when it comes to the emergencies, probably not as much in the routine. So the similar positive views are going to emerge with regard to the policing also, irrespective of the people who would like to look into only the negatives of it,
True.
or those who like to see the positive at a later date for whatever
True.
good or bad reason. So
True.
that's a different issue. The
True.
other thing which I feel is going to be very important, which is going to be affecting India, especially the youth, much more. I have been lecturing all along, and whenever I ask them, how many of you want to go to MIT? So everybody said, I want to go to MIT. I said, no, but what have you done to go to MIT? So they said they didn't have the resources, blah, blah, blah. I said, are you aware that there's an open course where available on the net, where all those lectures and reading material which is given to a regular MIT student is available on the net? And in one case, I found one hand, in another case, I found nobody aware of it. Now, this coronavirus has created this great opportunity whereby the learning and understanding things and talking and conferencing, just like you have done a webinar, I am sure there are going to be more of webinars on various topics, not only in the, I think it might be probably one of the great cost-saving effort by the institutions and universities who find it difficult to, organize seminar because they can't bear the cost of the good speakers coming over to them, and the good speakers also cannot come off at their own cost. So this mode, which is going to be a little more common than in the normal course of life, this is going to be the greatest boon to the academic society, according to me. And it will be a cost saving to the institutions, universities, or the learning establishments. And the third, of course, what you have said is that it will, in any case, I think the medical tourism was considered a very, after IT and pharmaceuticals, medical tourism was being considered one of the great honor for India. And with this coronavirus handling, I am sure the medical fraternity at every level, right up to the the lowest level, they are going to develop a very high level of self-esteem and self-confidence that they can handle the pandemic of this nature as well as anybody else, if not better. So these are the three positives which I find that this coronavirus should leave behind us.
What would you say, in your opinion, would be the success mantra for tomorrow, which youth or people like me can, from academics can, or people who are living in regular lives doing businesses can adopt for a more healthy and a happy life?
Well, you see, whenever there is a churning because of economic reasons, social reasons, health reasons, then all type of, I mean, as you say, you remember the whole thing, the Sagar Manthan hua tha, and then you say that you had the Amrit and you have the, and the poison also. So in this situation also, I have already told you pluses, and there are bound to be some minuses coming out of it, where the human nature will not be at its best. Now, when we go beyond this episode, what sort of memory it leaves behind, that is going to be important. Now, if we learn to find whether X, Y, or Z would have happened, then the things would have been managed well. That is one way of looking at it. The other way of looking at it, that we managed it so well that we did X, we did Y, we did Z. So according to me, if this episode gives you a better reason to have compassion for those who need it, love towards human beings, and an ability to find positives and bring positives together, then I'm sure you are going to be a winner. But if you are one of those, unfortunate person who wants to find out that I contributed so much, but he has not contributed so much.
Correct.
I did this, he did not do that.
True.
And that negativity, then I'm sure such persons are bound to be the losers, and they are not going to be an asset to this country. So we have to find love, compassion, and capacity to work together in adversity. That is going to be the
you said love, compassion,
and to capacity to work together.
Okay, yes.
Capacity to work together. Then
yes.
These are the three things, according to me, which should take us a long distance. And
true.
I don't know whether you want to you are interested in this, but there is one more thing which I would like to add.
Please go ahead.
Yeah, because in the last budget, because I have been a public finance enthusiast, so if I don't say that, I don't think I will be doing justice with the time.
No, please go ahead.
So you see, the government has taken some fantastic decisions. RBI has made some very good announcements yesterday.
True.
I'm only missing one, and that is in the last budget, the corporate tax structure was reduced from 30% to 25% or 22% or whatever.
Correct.
Now, I'm not against that. But what I am saying is that if we have to take our economy in a higher gear immediately after Corona, then probably the fiscal space available to the country should be utilized for enhancement of consumption rather than investment. Investment can be, I'm not saying investment is not desirable. So what I am saying is, I will like to use this forum to suggest to the government that they should postpone this decision for 1 year, and whatever fiscal space is generated should be passed on in the form of reduction of GST, etc. Indirect tax. So that in all those sectors, I'm not saying across the board, on all those sectors where the demand has slackened in a way which has created a lot of concern for employment, etc. Then those sectors has to be encouraged by reducing the fiscal burden on them, especially which are labor intensive and which are export oriented. So that is the area which has to be facilitated. The corporate tax structure, which is very desirable and it's a very good decision, I will say that instead of using this opportunity for 2021, let it be postponed for 21-22. In any case, everybody is sacrificing. Everybody is sacrificing. You are sacrificing your salary. MPs and MLAs are sacrificing their home takeaways. So it will not be very difficult, and it is not going to create any problem for the industry, because the corporate tax is paid only by those who are generating profits. So the only thing is that the cash in hand with them will be postponed by a year. And at this point of time, I think consumption is a much important aspect rather than the creating spaces for investment, future investment.
Now, you see, when we look at governments taking actions lately, all governments are always concerned about jobs, about growth, about GDP numbers. It's not new. It's been for decades, almost for a century, that governments have been concerned. Every government is challenged with some new factor which comes in, whether it is tsunami or whether it is economic slowdown or a war or a terroristic bombing or cyber security issues. Every time there is something new which always crops up. Now, given the fact that all governments want smooth induction of growth, and some governments recently have declared large number of packages, 2.2 trillion, 2.5 trillion, 2.3 trillion, even Europe, the US, Japan, even Bangladesh has said that we'll pay off the workers' salary for this particular 2 months. Now, given that, and the other side, we see our government where the Prime Minister is trying to connect with people, is trying to communicate with people, which is not being done in large parts of the world. It is mostly only giving financial benefit. So, there is a misinterpretation of what should be there or what should not be there. Should it be only a financial aid which can work, or should it be that emotional connect which needs to be there? What, in your opinion, should governments globally do to smoothen this, turbulent, volatile times for inducing smooth growth? There will be growth. There is no doubt about it. People will grow. People have learned to grow in difficult times. They will grow. But how do you think they can, what can they do to induce smooth growth into it? And since you have been in the government.
Well, let me put it a slightly different, on different note, because I have already talked a lot about what the government should do in my last sentences. I was flipping through the latest issue of Economist, and they have reported that out of the top companies, firms worldwide, there are 20,000 firms which have more cash than debt. So that means that a certain amount of cash is available in the firms, in the top firms worldwide. I'm sure some of them will be in India also. Now, so this is going to be a very good opportunity for mergers and acquisitions wherever it is practically possible. Now, you might be thinking, some people might say that I am getting, berserk when I am talking about acquisitions, merger, when there is not even, the opportunity whether we should start opening, producing. But see, there are opportunities that are going to arise, and there are going to be opportunities which are available only in such times where are, for example, these high-tech small firms, high-tech small firms world over. Now, if we keep our eyes and ears open, then we can have some very good firms which will be available to the people who have cash in their pocket. And I'm not saying that all the big companies in India are bankrupt. I am sure there are some which have wherewithal. And so for the corporate world at this point of time, instead of pressurizing the government to implement the corporate tax reduction immediately, they should go out and find out the niche companies, niche technologies which are available in the world market. Number one. Number two, I'm not going into the polemics of it, but rightly or wrongly, the thinking is that the pandemic is for some reason the China is responsible. Now the large number of companies who have invested in China, they are moving out. They are moving out. I don't know whether you have come across this figure. Recently, Japan has announced around a few $1 billion, I think $3 billion or something, to their firms if they want to move out of China. And they are giving this aid to not only those firms which are moving to Japan from China, but they are also giving the help to the companies which are going to move out of China to any other third country also.
Correct.
Now, if India is not too much bogged down by the pressure of handling pandemic, then they should proactively look into this area of opportunity. And I am sure we have such a big government. Such a depth in our policy making establishment that a certain number of people can always concentrate on this aspect also and look into these opportunities which are emerging where the companies are moving of China. Then there is another thing which is going to be very important outcome of this. For example, now in the pharmacy business, you have the capacity to provide the drugs in a much larger volume than, but you are bound because the raw materials are not easily available to you, or they are coming from a country where there is a lockdown. So sooner or later we will have to strategize that even if we want raw materials, then the raw materials should not be coming from one basket. We should have multiple sources of raw material if they have to be imported, so that we can provide some life-saving drugs to the larger society.
Now, we have 5 minutes more. Maybe we can discuss, and then I want to open for 5 minutes for question and answer. I see some hands being raised as well. One is that I would like your advice to youth and students in short as to, what is in your opinion is your advice to youth and students which get perplexed with different kind of negative news which keeps coming every second day.
Well, you see, again, I will go back to the demographics. 1921 was probably the first time when India started having its demographic dividend. That means we had growth in the population of a desirable age group, and we also know that the present day youth has a lot of burden on them, because I don't know whether I perform during my lifetime to avail of that to the extent possible or to the extent feasible or to the best of my capability. But this generation which is there, they have to have put everything into this, because the India has only 35 to 40 years left when the demographic dividend will peter out. So this present generation has to concentrate on the economic development of India, and if they miss it, then I think this generation will never be forgiven by the future generations, because they have frittered away the demographic dividend, which really don't know you can miss it. So the younger generation has a today's younger generation has a much more responsibility than when I was young, because I had almost 100 years to look forward to. I thought, okay, if I fail, then probably my successor will do it. I'm not saying that, but so we tried our best.
I can understand.
Under our limitations. I still remember when I was in the school days, even the pen which I was writing was getting imported. And today I can proudly say that we are going to moon. We are providing the cyber backbone to the global economy. So I am not a disappointed person. I am very happy. I feel I have done my best, and maybe I could have done better than that. But I think my generation has transformed India from probably 1 to 80 or something. Now now there's a question of diminishing return also. This generation is suffering two things. One is the diminishing return. Number two, they have got a very limited window of availing the demographic dividend. So if this generation gets distracted into anything other than economic development of India, then I think they will be doing a disservice to this country. And therefore, I say, please generate enough of enthusiasm for compassion for poor, love your people, and join hands to work together as a team, as a successful team. You have got a brighter future. We certain things we never thought. In my days, when my son was born, my father-in-law said, first thing, kindly book a telephone in the name of your son, so that by the time he becomes an independent person, he will have a phone of his own. Now, I can proudly say to my grandchildren that you just have to work what you want to do, but do it well. And I still remember an article which I think now it has been very widely referred, which I wrote on public administration. And then at that point of time, it got published in I think 2007 or so. I said the old paradigm of live and let live has become obsolete. I said live and let live has become obsolete. The new paradigm for the 21st century is excel and help others excel. Excel and help others excel should be the motto of public discourse and interaction for the coming generation. Not live and let live.
bringing
That
that
is
togetherness together. Yes.
that is not enough. Live and let live is not enough. You have
Correct,
to
correct.
excel, and you have to help others to excel, so that
Very
they are
correct.
able to deliver to the best of their capabilities.
True, true. A last question from me before we open the house. We have seen these GDP figures come out of IMF. There's been deliberations going on for the last 2 days. Well, the figure says about 1.9% GDP growth in 2020. That means January to December 2020. And they say that we rebound back to 7.5% in 2021 and onwards. Do you think for the 2020 is IMF optimistic, or it is a more conservative estimate which they have given, or given that you have known the potential India has and the way it is being recognized world over?
Well, India, according to me, has always performed better when it was pushed to wall. And if you need an example, remember 1990, when we didn't have enough of money to buy the enough of fuel also. So what I am trying to say is that what IMF says, I may or may not be able to say yes or no at this point of time. Because you see, this GDP growth of India will not depend on India alone, because 43% of our GDP growth depends on exports. So how the world economy will play out, it will also have a bearing on India. We cannot think in isolation. So it may be 1.x, or it may be more than that, or it may be less than that. That is not relevant. What is relevant is that how the global economy is able to take care of itself. Now, if it creates a pressure of its own, for example, we are dependent on raw materials. We have 43% of our GDP, which is comprised of exports. Now, if the world is not in a position to buy things from us because of various reasons, then this 43% will come under pressure. Similarly, when you have such a big dislocation where you have seen thousands and thousands of people moving around from urban centers to rural areas. Now we have not yet been able to assess these socio-psychological impact of that. We are only at this point of time talking about whether they got 3 foods a day, or 2 foods a day, or 1 food a day, or they had to survive without food. We are only talking about it. But when these people go home, when they will come, what will be their mental frame of work, so these all things are, I think probably it is too early to talk about all these things. And if you want a guess estimate, then probably I can say for that, I'm not a good astrologer.
No, that's fine. I don't want you to make astrological figures based on your experience. Yeah, and I'll request, I see a couple of hands up. So I'll request everybody to keep the questions pertaining to life and essence of life and growth and what we have discussed today, what Mr. Khan has deliberated on, and not go here and there and talk about all kinds of issues. I see Mr. Vinod Verma.
Can I?
Sure.
Okay, let him ask, then I will add whatever I want to add. Okay.
Sure, please. Can I request Mr. Vinod Kumar Kanumari to kindly ask his question? If he can unmute himself, or the co-host can unmute Mr. Vinod Verma Kanumari. Mr. Vinod. I think he's left the session just now. No, he's here. Mr. Vinod, can you ask your question, please?
I think I'm not getting his voice. So
yes, I think we're not getting his voice. I'll ask Dr. Yamini. She is also another contestant who wants to ask some questions. Dr. Yamini, can you ask the question, please?
Good afternoon, Dr. Khan. My question to you is that, in a densely populated economy like ours, the strongest defense to COVID-19 has been the strong faith in leadership and solidarity that this country has shown during the lockdown. What, in your opinion, should the government do to improve upon the life content of people towards the fight against COVID?
Very good question, Amni, and I hope I am able to give you some answer. But at this point of time, according to me, uh, there is a lot of negativity going around. So wherever the positive uh, 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 scenarios are emerging in densely populated areas, they have to be highlighted. So it depends what you want to propagate. I'm not saying that I want to criticize the media or for that matter, but I have a feeling that the government has got a duty to come up with positive stories where people have come in and actively cooperated or actively contributed in fighting against coronavirus. That is my suggestion. So Doordarshan should do a little more homework, and instead of let the private media do what they want to do, but the Doordarshan at least should be able to show the positive story where our leaders have gone, where the leaders have spoken to people, the people have responded well, where the doctors have responded well, where the doctors have talked to individuals and they have responded well. I think the positive scenario has to be picked up in a proportionate way, so that there is a self-confidence in people, there is a self-esteem in people, and those who want to engage in this fight against pandemic, they are also encouraged.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Thank you. Can we have again, I see that Mr. Verma is still here. If he still wants to ask a question, I request my co-host to unmute him so that he can ask his question. Mr. Vinod Verma, please go on. Mr. Verma. In any case, I think he's not, maybe not in front. I had a question, specifically from youth's perspective. This is that, when they look at growth, specifically the youth, as I said, the people who are studying, aspiring, when they look at growth, from their perspective, growth, they doesn't mean by GDP numbers. Doesn't mean what is happening, what is not happening. They're not concerned. What they normally want to know is, would I get a job? How would be my job position? Would my jobs be incremental? And would my bank's balance increase? So do you think it's a right perspective of looking at growth, especially in the youth age, which is churned with energies and wants to utilize its time to go forward?
Well, it's a very difficult question, and if I think from the highest level, it has been said that self-employment is not a bad option.
True.
Now, I am not saying that people should not look for professional careers or professional jobs in air-conditioned rooms, but not realizing that this is my strength, this is what I like to do, and just be in the queue because large number of people are in the queue for a particular job. I think that is where I think the youth of this country has to evolve. And in my times, I know everybody, when I was in Allahabad, everybody was saying that I am appearing for the civil services. Because in those days, the professional jobs were not so available, so much in abundance. Now, when it comes to my children, they never bothered about whether they should go for civil service, because the day they passed, they got the offers and they found that they are getting much more than what I earned even at that point of time. So for them, so what I am saying is that this demographic dividend and the paucity of government jobs and will also change the overall mindset of our people, and the people will come out of that feudal form to a much more professional, who believes in their own ability to create goods and services they can sell to the market. Now, more important is not what others are doing. More important is what you like to do. And if you want an honorable life of consuming goods and services which you have earned, then it becomes a secondary issue whether you are in a you are working in an air-conditioned room or you are working on the road. More important is that you have to respect the labor. You have to respect your urge that I will consume goods and services only those which I have earned, which I have bought from my hard-earned money. Now, once they have this, then probably nobody can defeat them, and they can always join the professional service. It's not like that. You don't have to be idle. If you don't have a job, you can teach people. You can help your students, even if you don't want to do the tuition. So what I am saying is, more important is that you should concentrate whether you are adding goods and services to the society, which the society needs or not. If you are able to answer this question positively, then I think you are doing a great national service to you, and also a great service to take your professional career forward.
Is there any other question anyone wants to ask? I'll ask a very last question and then we'll close the session for today. We're already running 10 minutes late today. Okay, in any case, I don't see any hands. One last question. You see, we have seen the monetary policy which has come out, and you have been on the fiscal side with the Ministry of Finance for a long time. And, you know, there's always the saying which comes in newspapers that there's always a tussle between the fiscal side and the monetary side. Although there is a man who is sitting in from the government as a governor today, and he's trying to balance out a good equation. So that the last announcement which was made, releasing about 3.4% of GDP as a fiscal monetary stimulus, and yesterday again almost about 1 lakh crore of monetary stimulus which has been given out to agriculture NABARD, then to SIDBI and to NHB to flush in fresh liquidity for working capital, for developmental activities, for MSMEs, and so on and so forth. How do you see this as a fiscal man, as a public finance man? Do you see this as a good move to smoothen lives of people, or to bring in a little bit of happiness in difficult times?
Well, you see, there are a large number of liquidity enhancing measures have been announced, both in the first instance or and the second instance, both. But the best thing which I like about the thing which he has said, that he doesn't have a closed mind.
True.
He has given a solution. He has worked out the numbers.
Yes.
And if the solution and the numbers do not cater to the needs of the time, then he is willing to revisit it. Now, the governor saying this, I don't think you can expect anything more from the governor of RBI. Or so I don't find that the monetary policy is out of sync with the needs of the time. I mean, one can always discuss whether there should be X number or Y number or Z number. That's a different issue altogether.
True.
Once this promise is coming from the highest level, who is responsible for running the monetary, for taking care of the monetary requirement of this country at this point of time, and he is openly saying that I am willing to revisit the numbers. If I have done this, I am doing this. I have done this, I am doing this. I hope it will work. And if it doesn't work, then I am willing to revisit the number.
Correct.
So I don't think one should expect anything more than from anybody as far as the monetary policy. And with regard to fiscal policy, I have already flagged what I thought should be done. If it is not done already, should be in the pipeline. And I wish this country will come with, I think, flying colors.
There is no doubt. There is no doubt to the fact that a country which has survived for over 10,000 years with difficult times and reigns of major controls by different economies and structures, with different demographic structures altogether, terrains moving from one zone to the other, influences from left to the right, it has come out so strong. And when I go to some of the international meetings like the World Bank, the ADB and others, they all keep asking me, how does your MSME survive? How does it do? There's not too much of support from the government coming forth. How does it survive? How does it work forth? How does life go in? And we see people, I remember the Polish Prime Minister who was he is now an honorary professor with us, but he was visiting us way back in '94. And when I was taking an on, he says, I see people on the street, they sleep, they're wearing torn clothes, but they're happy at the end of the day. And he could see smiles. And I was surprised, I have been an Indian for so many years, decades after decades, and I could not see that. But he, as an outsider, he brought this very critical point of happiness when he said that I see people living on the streets not having even basic comforts, but being happy. Because that means that's the end thing. And that's what Sarkozy recently did when he gave Amartya Sen this particular tool of looking at, and creating a happiness index. Even Abhijit Sen's Nobel Prize work, which has been given last year, talks about the fact that we need to upgrade, and that's what this government has been trying to do with pilot projects at a very grassroots level, is to upgrade at the lowest level, bring in a more healthy life, bring in happiness. When there's happiness, then people will automatically go forward with other activity, with prosperous activity, and that will bring prosperity to the small towns, villages, and ultimately the nation. I think, and I see no doubt in this particular aspect of life which India would not face. It's only a question of how do we smoothen our journey? How do we gain from experiences like yours and understand and maybe try and enhance our will? Thank you very much. I'm very grateful to you.
Before you finish,
yes, please. Yes.
When I started, I said I will finish my talk with 2 sentences.
Yes, please.
To take care of the scientific as well as the philosophical outlook on the sense of life.
Please.
So I will say those who are interested in looking into it, they should read the Einstein's last letter to his daughter to understand what.
Can you be a little louder, please?
I said those who are interested in looking into the scientific approach to a sense of life, they should read the last letter of Albert Einstein written to her daughter. And secondly, those who want to look into the philosophical aspect of it, I will suggest Google for Aristotle's sentence on essence of life. And if the two together makes you convinced to work as a team, please join hands, and let us take this country forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Namaskar.